Hello and welcome back. I am László Ujpál and you are listening to Leadership in Transition. Today we're exploring a moment many professionals aspire to and yet often underestimate: stepping into a leadership role. Moving from delivering individually to leading others, bringing people along with you towards a shared direction and goals. It's a transition I've gone through myself. And looking back, it's not just a change in role, it's a shift in identity. And one that shapes the kind of leader you become and you will be. So to explore this more deeply today, I am joined by László Ujpál. Hello, László, thank you for being here.
Hi, Laurent. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really great to be here with you today and discuss this topic together.
Yes, László is a leadership transition coach who supports emerging and senior leaders stepping into new roles, including leadership roles. So a great expert and a lot to share on this topic. So László, before we dive in, what would you like our listeners to know about you and maybe share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So to briefly introduce myself, I support leaders in their most critical leadership moments to ensure that they successfully transition into their new roles. And over the past decade of talent acquisition and HR experience that I had in mid-size and matrix organizations, I really had a front row seat into leadership transitions, working very closely with senior leaders and C-level executives as well, just like in my own practice now in the past few years.
Great. So maybe we can start here. So from the outside, stepping into leadership often looks like a natural progression, either internally or moving into a new role in a company that is also new. But in reality, maybe this is not that simple. So from your experience, what tends to be the most challenging parts of such a transition and entering into a new leadership role?
Yeah, great question. I think it's never just one challenge. It's always a compound issue when there is a leadership transition and when leaders are stepping into a new environment, a new role. But if I would like to highlight just one, I would say it's probably the identity shift that you already referred to in the introduction. There is also a great book about this from Marshall Goldsmith. So what got you here won't get you there. And I think it really resonates in this moment, is because when you are stepping into maybe your first leadership role or maybe into a higher role in an organization, it is not just a role change. It is really an identity shift, as you pointed it out very, very correctly. And that can sometimes be an uncomfortable change for people, leaving, so to say, the old self behind and what is really the 2.0 version of me asking to be look like in this new position. And sometimes, it really requires an uncomfortable process of personal growth, doing the hard work yourself that you can only do, because I really don't think that, no one can do the homework for you, so to say. So I think getting comfortable with that process, with the personal growth element in it.
Yeah. And identity is something personal, so you've got to do your work on your own identity. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think there's something important you also say in here is that what made you successful before may not actually make you successful in the future or now. And though what people step into these roles, they assume continuity often, right? I just move, I just do new work and new things. So in people you work with, what are the things that tend to be surprised the most when they enter the role and suddenly maybe they are challenged or they feel, wow, this is not what I thought it was, or this is harder than maybe I thought it was? What are the things that sort of more surprise them?
Yeah. So let's take an example of a successful individual contributor or a successful business unit leader in an organization that is promoted into a higher role. Maybe it's a global role or more responsibility, or as you mentioned, it's a first leadership role. And they were really successful before. They were high performing. They were very respected in the organization. This is why they earned that promotion. However, when they step into this new role, it's a change of the context. And I think a lot of people are surprised, and maybe they are underestimating the context they are stepping into, because this can really outpace them. And what I mean by the context is the culture that they are stepping into, if it's an external hire or even within the organization, the expectations of the new role that may or not be clearly defined in this situation. There can be informal power structures as well. And also the pace, the difference of pace at which decisions are expected to happen. So yeah, this is, I think, very clear to be prepared. It's very, very important to be prepared, to know what to expect and understanding what you are stepping into.
So if I just take it, so I think for me, in my experience, there was also stakeholders.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we all know the stakeholders, and I think depending on level of the organization you are in, it's a different way of working with stakeholders. You talk about expectation. That's maybe also where stakeholders' expectations differ depending where you are in the organization. So what are the things that people can do in a way to sort of help themselves sort of grow into that and be successful when they either change role or, as we say, like enter new roles of leadership and they've never done that before?
So probably preparation is key, I would say. So to be prepared, what is the new role expecting from you? So understand that this transition has different phases, and then be prepared for that. So we are running a marathon here, not a sprint, and I think you cannot really sprint a marathon. So there is a layer to it. So there is a business context to it. So understand, as we discussed before, the culture, the people, the politics, what is the new environment asking from you. And there is also the human layer to it. So how do you grow into this new role, and what is really expected of you to become successful in that new role? And
I also hear like uncertainty. There's probably a lot of things that you don't know. So what are the things that you see in terms of, I don't know what the word, troubleshooting in a way, right? All this uncertainty you don't know. So how does that come up, and how do you see people dealing with that in a way that can be helpful? Uncertainty can be good and bad, right? So
yes.
I guess there's always two sides of it.
Yeah, I think uncertainty pops up in today's world so often because we do live in very uncertain times. So it's not necessarily related just to a transition. However, I would say it's probably showing up in an amplified way during a transition, because it's such an exponentially challenging environment when you are in transition. And I think, so maybe I can say a little bit about myself, how I do that and how I also work with my clients, because I think to deal with uncertainty, it's a very normal thing in a sense, because as mentioned, it can pop up all the time. And it's very important to do inner work. So to be very familiar with who you are, with your values, that you have a direction in life, that you can anchor yourself in your purpose, how you think clearly under pressure, and also to have a very strong connection to your body. So basically, not just getting out of your head and having a more holistic connection to who you really are as a person, to be able to regulate yourself. So there's really, again, this human layer to it that would help you to stay calm and get used to this situation. So to trust yourself.
I hear a lot of human, and that makes me think of human centricity.
Yeah.
I sort of came up with this when I entered leadership roles, and I thought, we humans, right? And you've got to look at a human as a human, and even in the work environment, and that's really important to know that.
Indeed, yeah.
You talked about being prepared. So what people can do to be successful? Like, I don't know, if now someone is listening and they either thinking about maybe going into a leadership role they would like, or they may be even better looking and maybe talking internally in the companies or looking in another company to move into such roles or go up as well. What are the things that they can do, that they need to think, and that would help them in terms of being prepared for that transition?
So I would say you can ask yourself a couple of questions here. Yeah. So what is really this new role asking from me?
Mm-hmm.
Who do I need to become to be successful in this new role? What are really my values that will help me to stay authentic in this new role? And also what we talked about again regarding purpose and direction, what really motivates me to get out of bed in the morning and to stay really centered and stay on purpose for this transition period. Also, there is a business element to it, what we discussed. So really be clear on what the expectations are from your stakeholders, from the team, communicate that very clearly to create trust with your team members as well. So to know how to create that connection with the people you are working with. And perhaps also how to become an inspirational leader. So like what will make you successful in this role?
That's great, because what I hear, I think it's linking back to what you said before. Identity, if we take identity as a broad word, right, is yes. Who are you as a leader? I like that, because I think also if I share my experiences, that's when I moved into a leadership role. That's when I went to a coach because I lost myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who I had to be as a leader in terms of doing the work, and suddenly you need to lead people, and what kind of leader do you want to be? And yes, that resonated a lot, because that's the work that I had to do in terms of, okay, who am I as a leader? Who I become? And I find there's an identity, there's values we have in life and all that. And I find like at work, sometimes they may differ also. So is it what you see also with the people that you work with in terms of, right? There's work, there's life, it's all one, but there's a difference in a way, right?
Yes. And I think it is a role, as you mentioned. So, however, it's also important that you can maintain your energy, you can sustain your energy, so that you're not becoming someone that you are, but it is still part of your values. It is still part of you. However, you are consciously embodying those qualities and those values that will make you successful in this new role. Yeah.
And what I wonder is the flip side of it, when people don't do that work. Where do you see what happens? Because I guess it can become a bit of right? I mean, you talked about who you are. Mm-hmm. How does it show when people don't do that work? What do you see?
Yeah, so what we talked about earlier is this context that you are stepping into, this new culture, the new stakeholders, the new environment, the different pace. And if somebody is not prepared, I have often seen that the context can outpace them. Yeah, and what I mean by that is really the organizational complexity that we are surrounded with, or our leaders are surrounded with when they are stepping into a new role, can be so exponentially challenging. And as you could hear, there are these really compound issues. It's never just really one of these. It's always these risk factors are popping up. And this is why, unfortunately, there is quite a high failure rate as well, that there's research pointing into this, especially on senior executive level. So it's 4 out of 10
Wow.
Fail or don't, so like quit or pushed out within the first 18 months. So they don't make it really beyond the first 1.5 years. And I think this is quite a high number, not to be underestimated. However, we also know what success looks like. So it's not rocket science. It's not a question of luck, whether I end up in the 60% or I just got unlucky and then I ended up in the 40%. We discussed what can you do to prepare, to maybe have a structured approach with a framework, combining that with your personal development and personal growth work together. And I think you can minimize the risk significantly when you're prepared, when you do the work, and when you actually understand what is it that you are stepping into.
Mm-hmm. I found that's interesting. I'm surprised myself, like the 4 out of 10. That's a high number of failure at a high seniority level too, right? Where we see it as people that are successful and can handle a lot. But that's maybe where the core work that you also do with your client becomes really important, because I guess maybe not doing all that we talk about potentially is not putting the chances on your side.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, there are really high costs also associated with this, not just to the executive or to the leader himself, but because of course it's his trajectory, his career, and confidence, but also it has an impact on the organization as well, of course, with further associated costs, loss of productivity, the higher turnover potentially as well. So this is why I think this has really measurable consequences.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the difference between, I don't know, maybe the people you work, the clients you work with, in terms of, and again, also in my experience, is leading people or doing the work, and leading people is also doing the work, but there's a different thing, right? Bringing people along, inspiring people to come with you on a journey, on a common goal and all that. So how do you see what helps, what works in terms of that shift? Because if we talk specifically here about taking managerial responsibilities of people, or leadership role of people, what is the shift? What is the difference you see, and what works?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if there is a black and white answer to this. Maybe I can just bring up one example of one of my clients that I'm working with currently. He's responsible for another leadership team within the organization, so he's in a general manager role, and I think he's doing this extremely well, because when he arrived into this role, instead of jumping straight into execution and changing things too fast right at the beginning, he first really took time to connect the dots, so to collect the information. He took time to connect individually, one-on-one, to as many people as possible in the organization and in his team, to really create trust, create connection, share what is his purpose, what is his big why of being here, and also understand what his employees and colleagues are driven by, so to understand how they tick, what drives them. And through these measures, he was really able to create trust. He was able to understand and adapt to the new culture, because I think adaptability is really a core capability here. When you are in a transition, it's not necessarily about knowledge. It's about, okay, I'm now part of this new system. I'm part of this new culture. I am adapting myself. I create trust with the people. And from that moment on, he was really able to inspire, motivate the people, improve financial results, improve the morale in the team as well. So I think the key is really slowing down before you speed up.
Yeah, I love what you say, because I hear two things: slowing down, and if people have listened to other episodes, that's a recurring theme that comes in many different things. And I hear also the being, which also comes like slowing down, like not maybe the company or the role or other people around, stakeholders may expect you to do, achieve, but actually to really slow down and take the time to understand who you're dealing with and all the intangible sides of your work. Because I guess, the skills and the doing the work, you can do it, but that's all the cultural, the context, the stakeholders, the human beings that are doing the work, what is important for them, how do they do it, gaining trust. That's all a lot of intangible things. So it resonates a lot with that. Yeah.
Indeed. And I think what stands out here as well, that also with this client, and I'm really lucky to say that with many clients, are more and more interested in, so to say, a little bit of a deeper work, that it's not just we are looking at business decisions and we are just brainstorming, but it goes a couple of layers below that as well. How do I embody those qualities? How do I center myself in what I really care about and what's important to me? Because when you constantly practice that, when you constantly center yourself in your own purpose and in your own commitment, it becomes your second nature. It becomes a habit. And that's basically the energy that you bring into the room as well. And then people can rather feel your energy and your body language rather than the words. I mean, of course, both are very important, obviously. However, the two need to match. And if there is a resonance in between how you show up and what you embody and what you are talking about, I think that's a very powerful presence from leaders.
Yeah. And I love you say embodied. The leader that comes into a room and I don't know, there's an energy that comes and you're willing to listen and follow. And there's, sometimes people, they walk into a room and it's not quite the same. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is what we can circle back to what we talked about in the beginning. That is the surprising hard work for people, because unfortunately this is not some kind of a light switch that you can turn on and from tomorrow on I have a different presence. I think this is a process that we need to practice and we need to constantly work on a daily basis, and slowly we are going to step into this 2.0 version of ourselves, what we talked about. So it's hard work, and this is what I would like to highlight to focus on. Yeah.
And it's a process, right?
It's a process.
I think it's important to say it's not just I'm going to read a book and I'm going to like an Excel sheet and all those things, like be very skills and do. This is, I don't know, I come back again with the word intangibility. It's all these things that you can't touch, but you feel at the end of the day. And that's really important to be aligned and centered with who you are and values, I guess, also, right? You say values and...
Yes. And I think if I go back to the research, what we talked about, it's also highlighting out of those very high failure rates that it's really rarely the capability issue from leaders. I think it's only like 10% of those cases when they fail, it's someone didn't do a good job, didn't make a good decision. This can always happen. But in 90% of the cases, so in really almost all cases, it's this context issue, is the human layer issue. How do I read the room? How do I interpret this challenging environment in real time with my emotional intelligence that really, as you say, it cannot really be learned from a book.
Yeah. I love, and maybe you can't force someone to follow a leader, but if you a good leader, people will naturally just follow you, right? I think it's a little bit what you say. And leadership today is not about a top-down approach where you just assume that because you are the boss, people will just do. There is all that much more deeper level and work that you do, and I'm sure that's what you do with your clients as well. So I don't know if we think maybe for people that are listening, maybe bringing it back to the inner work. If someone is listening, and what are 1-2 things that they could themselves do on their own here at home or when they're going to walk or whatever to start do a little bit of inner work on themselves? What is maybe 1 or 2 steps that they could start doing to get that work on the way?
In my own experience, I think inner work is about self-exploration. Find any way that will help you to get to know yourself a little bit better. Your patterns, your strengths, even your weaknesses, of course, what holds you back in certain situations. What are the strengths that you can build on? And if you're curious to go even deeper, of course, create the awareness about what is happening within you. So it can be a meditation practice, it can be yoga, it can be working with a coach, it can be working with a therapist. I think any kind of external help is very helpful, because then someone is helping you mirror back what they see, how you show up. But again, if you just want to do it on your own, I think there are also some practices just to create this awareness of what is happening within you, so that you can become responsive rather than reactive.
So what really stays with me from this conversation, I think it's leadership is not something that you also just step in, new day and you stay. I guess it's a continuous development and growth, and you can do some fundamental about who you are, your values as a leader, and your identity. But what I hear also is you will have to adjust this depending where you go in your career and where you shift, because of the context, the culture, the stakeholders. You might need to adjust a little bit how you are also. So it's really something that we grow into and we continue to develop. So it's not a one-stop shop where I've done the work and then great, I can just I don't need to do any work anymore. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, László, but I think
it's like, I love the gym analogy. It's an easy one. Like, if you want to grow muscles, you cannot just go once to the gym or one time. You have to keep going.
I like that metaphor as well. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, thank you for that one.
Welcome.
And also, I like how you really said about embodiment and slowing down and being, because I've heard it from other coaches that I've spoken to, as I said, and it's a recurring theme. We are a lot into doing, and actually taking time, slowing down, the being, who are we, what do we want, and just really nurturing this and the humanity, because at the end of the day, we are humans. So I think that would be something that I would leave our listeners with. I want to thank you, László, for taking the time to join that podcast and share your experience and what you see in your work in terms of leadership. That's one area where you are specialized in. So we are talking to an expert that sees it every day. So I'm really grateful for that. And thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you for the opportunity, for inviting me. And I'm very glad that we could speak about it.
Thank you, László. So yes, if you are listening, if you are entering a role of leadership or moving within a leadership role, then do your inner work. Start with yourself, and then when you know who you are, then you can be a leader that people will naturally follow and give the best in what they do. That's maybe what we leave everyone with. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, László. And I wish everyone a good rest of the day or whatever they are doing.